For so many people, that ticking biological clock is a very real thing. Age-related infertility is this universal challenge, but a fascinating new scientific paper is offering a totally new way of looking at why it happens, and, more importantly, what we might actually be able to do about it. So let's get right into what this new paper has uncovered.
See, for years, science has pretty much been focused on one main suspect. But what if that was only part of the story? This new research asks a really compelling question. What if the key to understanding this decline in fertility isn't where we've been looking all along, but is hiding in plain sight, deep inside the cell's most basic machinery?
So, let's start with the big mystery itself. It's no secret that as women age, fertility declines. It's just a fact of biology, right? And it has huge emotional and health impacts for people. But the exact reason why, the precise cellular mechanics, well, that's been a tough nut to crack for decades.
And yeah, for the longest time, the leading theory has been all about this: errors and mutations building up in the DNA of egg cells. The thinking was that over time, the genetic blueprint itself just gets damaged, which leads to lower quality eggs. It kind of makes sense, but it turns out it might not be the whole story.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This paper kind of flips the script. It shifts the focus away from the DNA blueprint and points to a totally different culprit. A problem not with the plans, but with the factory that's supposed to be building everything from those plans.
Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of what this paper found. We're about to zoom way in on a part of the cell that is absolutely essential for life, but has until now been pretty much overlooked in this whole conversation.
And this new suspect? It's the ribosome. The simplest way to think about it is this: if DNA is the blueprint for a cell, the ribosomes are the 3D printers, or the assembly line machines, that actually read the blueprint and build all the important proteins. They're at the foundation of everything a cell does.
The paper actually uses this brilliant analogy to make it super clear. Just imagine the ribosomes are these tiny, tireless factory workers. Their only job is to follow the DNA instructions and put proteins together perfectly. When everything's running like it should, that factory is a well-oiled machine.
Okay, so here's the absolute key takeaway. The researchers discovered that in younger egg cells, these little factory workers are super efficient. They make great, high-quality proteins. But in older egg cells, the genes that are supposed to be managing these workers go into overdrive. The workers get confused, they start working frantically, and they start making faulty junk proteins. This just floods the cell with useless material, which causes a ton of stress and ultimately really poor egg quality.
So if the whole problem is this protein factory going haywire, the next question is pretty obvious, right? Can you calm it down? Can you get things back in order? And this is where the study goes from just identifying the problem to testing a potential solution. So what did the researchers do? They turned to a drug called rapamycin. Now, this isn't some brand new crazy compound. It's actually been around for a while. It's used to help prevent organ transplant rejection and has been a hot topic in anti-aging research for years. Its ability to regulate how cells work made it the perfect thing to test here. And here's basically how it works, which is pretty clever. Rapamycin comes in and acts like a new factory manager. It tells those overactive ribosome genes to just calm down. It dials them back. That brings protein production back into a healthy balance, which in turn lowers all that damaging stress in the cell and even reduces other key signs of aging.
Okay, so that's the theory, and it sounds great, right? But does it actually work in the real world? Let's take a look at the evidence the paper lays out from both their animal and human studies.
Well, the scientists tested this in two main ways. First, they used mouse models, which you can do a lot more extensive testing with. And then they ran a pilot study in humans, specifically with a group of 50 women who were already going through IVF treatment.
And wow, the results from that human trial were pretty striking. The treatment seemed to delay ovarian aging by as much as 20%. I mean, that's not just some tiny adjustment. That's a really significant slowdown of the biological clock on a cellular level.
Okay, so a 20% delay. What does that actually mean for a person in the real world? The paper suggests this could translate to potentially extending a woman's fertility by up to 5 years. For a lot of people, that is a truly game-changing amount of time.
Okay, but let's pump the brakes for a second. It's super important to be realistic here, and the researchers themselves are very upfront about the study's limitations. The human trial was small, only 50 women. It was also a pretty short-term study. So while these results are incredibly exciting, we definitely need a lot more research on long-term safety and effectiveness before this could ever become a standard treatment.
So, all of this brings us to the big question: what's next?
Where does all this research go from here? This is maybe the most exciting part of the whole story.
While the path forward is pretty clear, the next big step has to be much larger and longer clinical trials to really confirm these findings. Researchers have got to figure out the perfect dosage. They need to study the long-term safety, and of course, they need to see how well it works for all different kinds of people.
But make no mistake, the potential here is absolutely massive. Like the paper suggests, this isn't just about one drug. This whole new understanding of how ribosomes work could completely transform fertility treatment. It could open up new options, give women more choices, and maybe even delay the start of menopause.
And that just leaves us with one last really big thought. If we can actually fine-tune the basic protein factory inside our egg cells, what other parts of aging could we influence? This hints at a future where we go way beyond just treating symptoms and start to tackle the fundamental mechanics of how our bodies grow old, one tiny cell at a time.